The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good morning, everybody. We will get started in just a moment. Good morning, everybody, and thanks for joining me for a conversation today focused around how to accomplish successful digital transformation. Before we get started today, I just wanted to do a brief introduction. My name is Emma Roloff, and I'm an account executive here at Navient, focused specifically on the insurance industry. Just to touch on a couple of interaction options, everybody on the line is muted this morning so that we can record the broadcast, but please feel free to use the comments or questions section, and I will do my best to keep an eye on that and address that as we go along or at the end for questions as well. So with that, since we've got a half an hour, I want to dive right into things. As I mentioned when I reached out to all of you, today we're going to focus on digital transformation within the insurance industry and what analysts and our clients are telling us are the key to success within this transformation era. I don't want to spend too terribly much time focused on the why, because if you're here, I think it's safe to assume that you understand the importance of digital transformation and what it can mean for your organization. But I do think it's important for us to kind of level set and make sure we're still all on the same page. It's important for insurers to focus on the nature of disruption rather than the would-be disruptors, because realistically, there's over 1,200 different insurtechs that are being monitored right now, and you can't keep up with what each one of them is doing. Rather, we should be focusing on understanding what's happening and why. Changing with the times and adapting to your surroundings is no new concept. And this idea of kind of survival of the fittest has been around since Charles Darwin's time, which is why I have him up on the screen right now. But there's never been a time where this idea of adapt or die has been so close to home for insurers. And right now, realistically, change is never going to happen slower than it is currently, because of the exponential growth and speed and change. And if you're not actively seeking out a path to digital transformation, you're going to be left behind. Based on our research and what other industry analysts are saying, there are really three main trends that are dictating change and flexibility within the insurance industry. The first of which is this idea of changing customer expectations. According to Capgemini's World Insurance Report, only 37% of Gen Y customers reported having a positive experience with their insurer. To me, this signals that we need to adopt new technology and ways of interacting with our customers that bring them back to central to our processes. Doing business as usual isn't going to cut it, because it's very easy now for customers to turn and look for somebody else to accommodate their needs. I have already mentioned this idea of insurtech companies, but again, I would be remiss to have a conversation about digital transformation and not bring up this movement. In response to those changing customer expectations, hundreds of new players are coming into the marketplace and proving to customers that digitalization is the key to changing the focus and the delivery of insurance. I don't want to incite fear about insurtech startups putting everybody out of business, because that fear isn't necessarily founded. And according to Novarica's predictions, insurtechs are not going to put incumbent insurers out of business. But what they are doing and have continued to do is raise that bar of expectations for process efficiency and interactions with their insured. New players that are coming into the market have the ability to innovate quickly and take advantage of opportunities to fill gaps. But for insurers that are looking to continue to strive into the future and have a growth mindset, using technology to transform rather than simply stay afloat is what's going to make you able to compete and keep yourself from being acquired. And then finally, the last trend that we're seeing that is kind of demanding these changes is this idea of the talent gap within the insurance industry. According to a study by McKinsey & Company, 25% of the professionals within the insurance industry are staged to retire by the end of this year, which is going to leave an enormous talent gap. And we have to get creative in the ways that we're going to hit this head on. So companies need to find a way to capture and retain employees' knowledge before they make their exit and pass that on to the next generation, as well as be responsive to the changes within the marketplace and workplace in terms of being able to work remotely or work on mobile devices on the go. So a system transformation will allow insurers the opportunity to build in efficiencies to give them the tools to do more with less, as well as accommodate changes to the workforce. The last piece of this introduction that I want to touch on is kind of what my definition of digital transformation is for the rest of the conversation today. I think digital can mean something different to everyone that you talk to. And a lot of times when you try to find a singular definition, you're going to find something that's very ambiguous, kind of like the image that I have up on the screen right now. Digital can mean being able to order my lunch online or order my insurance online, but it also means focusing in on your processes internally. And according to Mike Birding, a partner at Strategic Meets Action, which is a firm focused in the insurance industry, you can't be digital outside of the world unless you're digital within your four walls. So today we're going to really focus on digitizing and optimizing your business processes internally so that you can, in turn, increase your productivity and kind of propel yourself to that next level. So now we're going to kind of change focus and really dig into what does it take to adapt and what are the things that we hear from our customers make a big difference. In preparation for this webinar, I asked you to come here and think about finding a successful path to digital transformation. And what we hear from both analysts and our customers is that the magic of transformation really begins when you're able to pull forward an effective digital strategy along with a systems transformation. Innovation efforts oftentimes end up being a little bit more tactical in scope than we'd like them to, really focusing in on fixing processes and incremental issues that are going on within the business, rather than really looking at a strategic innovation and really focusing on embracing new possibilities. Day-to-day pressures are what cause business units and innovation groups to kind of pull towards these tactical applications. But with the help of an outside partner like Navient, we can really find that sweet spot right in the middle where we're able to identify immediate needs and address tactical applications, as well as set you up with a strategy that allows you to grow into the future. So again, kind of going back to this idea of what is really different between digital and a standard business strategy. And according to Noverica, digital really isn't a thing. It's more of an orientation and about rethinking your relationship between data accessibility, transactional capabilities, and how your users interact with processes in the digital world. So for organizations undergoing digital transformation, you have to take a strategic approach to this in order to be successful. The definition of a digital strategy is really no different than any other strategy, but what is different is the speed and the potential magnitude of the changes that are happening. Being able to build business models that allow you to be agile and rapidly change with the industry is what's going to really set you apart and align you to be successful in the future. And working with a business partner that's kind of got a long-standing experience in this area is really critical when you're looking at your digital strategy. Our consultants at Navient have experience within the industry going back to the 1980s. So 2 of our principal consultants started their careers during the first wave of innovation within the insurance market. They were tasked with managing and implementing a document management solution for a well-known insurance carrier. And over the years, they've taken that knowledge that they gained during that first implementation, along with this notion that process should always come first, and use that to help a number of different organizations implement really evolutionary solutions. Most recently, kind of coming into the 2010 era, we've helped organizations like WPS really revolutionize the way they're doing business and save millions of dollars by taking an approach that focuses on process and system transformation at the same time. Business-wide transformation really starts with a thorough diagnostic of your strengths and your challenges and gives your leaders the tools that you need to determine the priority of where to start. Using a well-defined roadmap, organizations can then commit to a budget and a timeline to meet those targets. And using our methodology, our consultants really work closely alongside with your team, ranging from all levels across the organization, to survey your current state and those opportunities and create a clear blueprint of how to move forward. Sheila Beckman, who's the Vice President of Operational Claims at WPS, shared with us a quote during one of our case studies that the big thing is to really take the time to change your process and not just plug in a new system. So if you're going in saying, this is how I'm going to do this, you're really missing an opportunity to institute real change. So, as I mentioned previously, strategy can only get your organization so far if you don't have the appropriate tools to capture the value laid out within your roadmap. A system transformation alongside a digital strategy is where magic really starts to happen. So lucky for our consultants, they have a solution called ONBASE that allows them to have a robust toolkit to kind of pull from and give insurers a strategic focus to really securely manage content, cases, and processes across their entire organization. So up on the screen, I have a slide that kind of shows the wide breadth and depth of ONBASE within the insurance industry and the types of solutions that we've implemented for customers across new business, underwriting, policy services, and claims. And what really allows us to do this is kind of the architecture of the ONBASE solution. It's a very modular system that allows you to pick and choose the components that you need to enable your business requirements. ONBASE is known as a content service platform, and that's kind of the most recent and new industry term for enterprise content management. And so when we go back to that term of ECM, you might be familiar with some of the capabilities such as capturing documents and information, electronically routing documents around the organization, and records management. Content services platforms really address this idea of the modular approach that Highland takes and really looking at giving you the tools to select a fine-grained solution rather than a large monolithic platform that isn't very agile and can't move with your organization. The idea of configuration is really what sets ONBASE apart because it gives you the ability to dictate your solution based off of your specific requirements and configure it to meet your needs. So rather than having to go out and custom code a solution or change your business processes so that they're supported by the technology that you're bringing in, ONBASE gives you much more flexibility in how you deploy your solutions. At a high level, we like to talk about kind of the 6 pillars of the solution being capture, manage, access, integrate, measure, and store. And these 6 pillars are really a conceptual framework to give you the ability to start zeroing in on what the ONBASE solution can do for your organization. Like I mentioned, it's a modular system that's made up of over 200 components. So these categories give you an idea of how you could implement within your organization without having to worry about all of the fine details. The first category that we talk about is capture, and that's the idea of bringing in documents and data into your system. And OnBase really allows you to move beyond that idea of traditional capture that's oftentimes associated with enterprise content management. So rather than just strictly thinking about scanning documents into a system, we can begin to look at bringing in all types of information and content across your organization. So whether that is physical paper that you're scanning in, emails that are being brought in, file shares that are being converted and brought into the secure document repository, or data feeds coming in from other third-party line of business applications, OnBase can bring all of that information into the system and begin to provide automation and drive you forward within your business processes right off the bat. So using technology like optical character recognition, we're able to automate the extraction of data off of documents as they're coming into the system to really reduce some of the manual effort that's needed on the front end. So when we start to look at things like claims processing or first loss of notice, this automated data capture can really reduce the manual effort needed for internal processes for insurers. Once your documents and data are held within the system, you need to do something with that information and manage your processes more effectively. And this is really where we see the full depth of the OnBase solution come into play. Again, kind of going back to traditional ECM solutions and what the roots of OnBase was document management and being able to manage your paper within an electronic format. So when we think about document management capabilities, I like to tell people anything that you can do with a physical piece of paper, you can do within OnBase. So you can staple documents to one another, you can highlight information, annotate documents, apply quote unquote sticky notes to the document, really giving you the full capabilities to interact with your documents the same way that you would if you had them in physical form. Then the two main efficiency drivers within the OnBase solution are going to be managing your processes using workflow and managing your dynamic processes and data using what we call case management. And we'll dive into all of that in a little bit more detail here. Oftentimes, one of the things that we see very heavily used within the insurance industry is electronic forms. And the reason for that is it expedites business processes by eliminating paper and that capture on the front end. We can use electronic forms for things like first loss of notice out on a portal where your clients can input that information directly for you, or in a field claims adjuster scenario on a tablet, directly entering information into an electronic form. It allows us to instantly kick off business processes and drive those efficiencies much more effectively, starting off with one of these electronic forms. Oftentimes, again, those forms are going to feed into a workflow process, and those workflows are what give us the ability to electronically route documents and manage linear processes within an organization. So the way that I like to explain this to our customers is that workflow allows you to manage processes that are dictated by logical components. So if we can use rules and logic in the background to route these documents, workflow is going to be the best way to enable this. Oftentimes we see that this is the largest efficiency gain for organizations because sometimes we find outside of kind of core line of business applications, we're not managing our information and data appropriately. We're doing things like attaching documents to emails and sending them off for review or approval. We might still sometimes be physically moving file folders around the organization. And workflow gives us the ability to step away from all of that and manage everything electronically with much more efficiency. The next couple components that I want to touch on here are what kind of fall under the category of customer communication management, or CCM. And these capabilities have been brought into the OnBase solution specifically because of the feedback that we've gotten from our insurance customers about gaps that they see within their organization. So OnBase gives you the tools to do things like automate data or document composition by pulling in Word templates that are held within the system and filling them in with information from third-party systems, as well as allowing you to have user interaction or populating data that's held within OnBase. The document creation and using this functionality allows you to maintain compliance and legal language that may be held within documents, and also takes away some of the variability that might be in place for document creation if you're operating in multiple states or across lines of insurance. It gives you the ability to take the guesswork out of it for your team so that they can effectively and efficiently communicate with your customers. Another component that often goes hand in hand with that document creation is this idea of document packaging. This gives you the tools that you need to generate a single PDF of multiple source documents, both from within OnBase or other line of business applications that you might have, to pull them together, create a single document that has a dynamic header and footer, table of contents, and package that information out to then deliver to your customer or reinsurance company or any of the other areas where you may need to deliver packages of documents. This is a really powerful capability that oftentimes we see picks up where some of those gaps of other line of business applications drop off. And again, kind of in the same avenue of customer communication management, OnBase does integrate with DocuSign, and we're seeing this integration become one of our main integrations within the insurance industry so that you can extend that capability of secure signing outside of your organization and keep your processes moving without having to manually monitor that and drive the process on your own. The last piece of this manage category that I want to touch on is the idea of dynamic process management or case management. And this is really where case management picks up where workflow leaves off. So as I mentioned, workflow does a great job of managing processes that are very linear and logic driven. But as we know, there are many, many processes within your organization that are centered around a knowledge worker. And what case management gives you the ability to do is provide that knowledge worker with all the information that they need to make an informed decision quickly. And what this means is you're able to pull in information from different line of business systems like your policy administration solution, a third-party website, or any other data source that you may have that's needed to drive decisions within your organization, so that that knowledge worker has everything they need to make a decisive decision and keep the process moving. So the next two categories that I want to touch on are access and integrate. And the reason that I talk about these two coupled together is oftentimes we find that the best way to provide access to information is through integrations with other line of business applications. So the whole goal of OnBase is to provide easy access to those that need it within your organization, and that integration oftentimes gives us that ability. So OnBase has a number of ways that we can extend access to information and documents, all from personalized interfaces that are kind of desktop apps to web clients where folks can use any web browser to access their OnBase solution. We can also, again, as I mentioned, integrate with other line of business applications to keep your team in the applications that they're most familiar with and that they spend most of their time in. So oftentimes within the insurance industry, this means an integration with your line of business application for policy management. So whether that's an AS400 legacy system that you have or kind of a new age system like Guidewire or Duck Creek, we can integrate with those solutions to provide access to the documents and information that are held within OnBase. We can extend access out to mobile devices. OnBase has an integration with iPhone, iPad, Windows tablets, as well as Android phones to keep approvals and reviews of processes moving forward, even if everybody isn't directly within your office. As I mentioned before, sometimes we'll see people out in the field using iPads to interact with OnBase on their mobile apps. And then they also have the flexibility if they're in a scenario where you might not have access to the internet or cellular service, if you're in remote locations or traveling, you can access documents and check things off offline, start processes that once you sync back up to the internet will then sync back up with your OnBase system and keep processes moving. And then finally, we can extend outside of your four walls through portals or using those e-forms, as I mentioned before, to extend onto your website to allow customers to give you information and data that way. And we can also extend the use of OnBase using a tool called ShareBase. So ShareBase is Highland's enterprise cloud file sync and share product. And this allows you to integrate directly with OnBase and share information that you have within the system out to other users and still retain control of that information. So we can share information encrypted with passwords, requiring that passwords expire within 30 minutes. There's a lot of security that goes into ShareBase to make sure, specifically in areas like insurance, where data integrity and security are very important, that you can retain that control. OnBase has a number of different integration tools that can be used, as I mentioned, to integrate with your line of business systems. So we have tools that allow us to kind of integrate at a high level with screen level integrations and pulling data back and forth between systems. And we also have tools that allow us to integrate at a much deeper level with APIs or custom built, purpose built integrations with certain applications like Outlook. For those that are like me, you open out Microsoft Outlook right away when you get in the morning. OnBase has a purpose-built integration that allows you to interact with your documents without ever leaving that interface. We do have, again, those purpose-built integrations with policy admin tools like Guidewire and Duck Creek, the full Office suite of Microsoft, as well as the mobile applications that I spoke of before. And what this gives you the ability to do is accurately share real-time information across the organization and use OnBase as an integration hub so that you can drive process and decision-making throughout the entire organization. Up next is the category of measure, and this gives you the ability to really dive in and dig deep into key performance indicators within the organization and report on the processes and documents within the system. The reporting dashboards is a really graphical tool that's used for business users to be able to tap into key insights to make decisions and kind of check the processes that are going along. So do I need to load balance and change the distribution of work? What are the insights that are going to drive decisions within my business? As well as being able to report on historical data or pull in other information from your databases to drive decision making within the business. And also, any document or process within OnBase has a native capability that's tracked with a history and a full audit trail. So from a compliance and regulatory standpoint, these measuring capabilities really unlock a lot for insurance organizations. And finally, the last category that I want to touch on today is this idea of store. And it's kind of the least sexy, but maybe one of the most important categories that we talk about. And that's making sure that your information is stored securely and protected, as well as helping you monitor and manage the retention of those documents. So OnBase at its core manages your documents, can keep them safe with things like encryption as well at rest as well as in transit, and only provides access to the folks that you need to have access. So we have very granular security to protect information and make sure that that information is staying safe and secure. And then when it comes time to dispose of information, OnBase has tools that allow you to fully manage your records across the organization. So with that, I know it was kind of a quick and high and heavy review of OnBase, but are there any questions that anybody has for me today? Okay, well, I will stay on the line, but I wanted to thank everybody for joining me today and provide you with my contact information. Please feel free to reach out to me with any questions that you may have, and I'll follow up to see if it makes sense to continue a discussion and really drive into your specific requirements and maybe some of the challenges that you're experiencing.